comes the scribe. Ben Goessling covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune, startribune.com, at Ben Goessling via X. Please follow if you're so inclined, as 9 to noon does. And he's with us in studio. What'd you do for your birthday yesterday, and good morning?
Good morning. It's become, an annual tradition that I cover a Kevin O'Connell press conference on my birthday, because the playoff game last year would have been on my birthday out in Arizona. And then this year they had the season-ending presser yesterday, Kevin O'Connell, Quasiato Flumensa at the TCO Performance Center. So covered that, wrote about the quarterbacks, and did a podcast in the afternoon. So, kind of a busy work day, but then I went out with my family. We had not been to Mancini's in years.
Yeah.
So it's let's go check that out. My kids had never been there. They'd had the garlic toast at the State Fair, but
oh, wow.
It was fun. I mean, it was, I had not done the Mancini's thing for a number of years.
Yeah.
And, we had a great time.
Do you know Johnny or Patrick Mancini?
I don't think I think I met them personally. No.
Fantastic guys. I've known them for multiple decades. Yeah. And you talk about the bread. I mean, obviously the steak and the lobster are fantastic. Yep. Pretty fairly priced too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the pickles and the peppers and everything they bring as kind of an appetizer before, meshing it with the bread. Yep. Holy cow, that's underrated, but it's fantastic.
It is, and it's one of those things where it's got kind of that old school supper club feel. They make sure that you are well fed between the relish tray, the bread,
there it is,
the salads, the entree, obviously, and then we said, it was my birthday, and so they just brought out a cake. Wow. So, so it was some spumoni. It was awesome. We did not have spumoni. It was just the cake with an almond cherry almond frosting kind of thing. It was very good.
Yeah, I mean, next time you go there, let me know, because Johnny Mancini, big Vikings fan, and for decades they've arranged for a bus that picks up a bunch of people at Mancini's, goes to Lambeau Field.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a package bid every single year, and then comes back day of the game. It's they still do that, man. Johnny and Patrick both love the Vikings. I know Johnny better than Patrick, so they would love to meet you, man.
That'd be awesome.
How did Program Password go last Friday? Did you have fun?
We had a good time, yeah. We got the lead, and then it was tight the whole way. I mean, it was...
Was it you and Barb?
No, it was me and Common against Lil B and Alec Lewis. So we got up... I think we were never up more than 10, and it got tight late, and Lil B hit a couple, she had a couple good clues that I think they got on the first guess. So it was late in the game. We were starting to come back, and it's that question of, do you go with, do you pass on the first one or do you take it? And we took one where, you try to get it on the first one just to not give them a chance, and we missed that, and they got it on a 9-pointer, and that kind of put us, in the bucket. So, it was fun.
The game's terrific every Friday on the program with Dan Cole, the common man. So, as mentioned, with the big team presser in the rearview mirror, what's next for the scribe? What's next for you? I mean, is it just simply Flores watch?
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Then take what comes to you, just low-key work it, then get to the combine? Is that how it goes?
That kind of is how it goes, yeah. It's always... It feels like you're sort of monitoring, and you're checking around to see what's going on. There's a lot of that stuff that you're kind of always in a little bit of a work mode.
Yep.
And, the shut it off totally time doesn't really happen until after minicamp. It's that minicamp to training camp where you're really not thinking about it ever. But it'll be Flores watch. It'll be trying to figure out what happens with other things on the coaching staff. Mike Pettin retiring yesterday, so they're going to have a outside linebacker coach job to fill. You've got guys like Durante Jones getting interviews. I mean, there's going to be some dominoes to fall through some of those things. So there'll be things like that going on. And then I want to spend some time kind of studying X's and O's stuff that you don't have as much time to do during the season. So I'll probably dig into some things there.
We're actually going to have.
Well, JT O'Sullivan's got a kind of a deep dive how to beat every coverage course that I bought a couple of years ago, and I need to just get in and do it. And then we're actually having Cody Alexander on the Access Vikings podcast Thursday, so I guess that's tomorrow, to kind of talk through Brian Flores stuff. So it'll be fun to dig in with him and get some X's and O's kind of takes from him on Flores' defense. He's done a lot of work on Flores' defense and put out a lot of content on it, so it'll be fun to chat with him. And it'll be a matter of trying to just learn and consume things and gather information from people who know it well and talk about it well. So I want to spend some time on that this offseason too.
There's minimal chance Flores leaves the Covenant for another defensive coordinator job, right? Minimal chance?
I think. I mean, right. The fact that it's not done yet, you never say zero. And I think there was a report yesterday that the Commanders want to talk to him about a coordinator job. But yeah, I think the Vikings are intent on making it worth his while to stay. The fact that Pettin is retiring, I wonder if that assistant head coach job, maybe they would add that to his title, to throw a little bit more prestige in the title, a little more input, a little more money, probably. I mean, I don't think money's going to be an issue. I really think they're going to make it worth his while that way. But yeah, it depends on everything else that he wants. Does he want to move the family again? I know he's been very high on working with Kevin O'Connell and been very high on working in this particular environment. So I would think the odds of him leaving for another coordinator job are fairly low. I don't think there's zero, but yeah, I think they're going to have a pretty good chance to keep him in that sense if he does not get a head coaching look, or a serious head coaching look, I should say.
You were at the presser yesterday, Ben, so This is not new audio to you, but I wanted to play, somebody asked Kwesi a question, and maybe you asked this, I don't know, about replacing Flores, what that whole thing looks like.
There's always, when you bring in a new coordinator, there's always that carryover, possible attrition versus, loss, in a sense. He is unique, and he does have a unique play style. But if you really look down deep, what is flow value, versatility, physicality, the things that matter in a deep, good defensive football, setting edges, tackling, different things like that everybody values. Flow kind of takes those pieces and puts it together in an artwork that's different than most. But the core colors that are part of that painting, are a lot of people, share those same things.
So as I listen to that, the first thing, I'm not going to try and make a mountain out of the molehill, and Kwesi, well, basically what he said at the end is anybody can do what Flores did. I'm curious, though, what do you think? How sweaty are they in terms of, you mentioned Durante Jones with interviews. You think about coaches with opportunities to elevate elsewhere. In terms of the timeline and these dominoes falling, it's like, all right, well, if he's going to go well down the road in a head coaching process, meanwhile, we get some assistants that advance their careers. We're kind of left holding the bag here.
Yeah, there is some timing stuff there. If he goes into a head coaching search and they have to figure that out. The difference with this, as opposed to a normal year where you have a defensive coordinator that's a head coaching candidate, is the defensive coordinator is not under contract as a defensive coordinator either. So you do have a little more sensitivity to the timing there, I think, because it's not just, he's going to interview for head coaching jobs, and if he gets one, we'll figure it out later and figure out how to replace him. He's interviewing for head coaching jobs, and it's also possible that he's not our defensive coordinator. Right? And again, I think they have a pretty good chance to bring him back in that context, in that setting, but it's not for sure until it's done. So yeah, I do think you have to be a little more sensitive to that. And you've got guys like Durante Jones that are getting looks, and he's gotten a number of them over the last few years. Mike Saravo is another guy that I think would be a candidate internally. So yeah, I do think you have to think about those things. This is a more unique set of circumstances they have to navigate through than just your typical coordinator has a chance to get promoted.
Would Durante be a good internal candidate if Flores does take a head coaching job? So if the timing goes in favor and you have that option, would Durante be an option potentially?
Yes, I think he would be high on that list. He's been a guy that in the preseason has called plays in games. You've seen them do this.
The preseason bit too?
Yeah, kind of like Kevin O'Connell does with Wes Phillips. They've done that with Durante Jones and Mike Saravo, both in preseason games, to give them some reps. And Durante had been here previously under Mike Zimmer, actually was hired under Zim, I want to say in 2020, and then left to become the defensive coordinator, I believe, at LSU, and then came back to work on Kevin O'Connell's staff in 22. So he is well thought of in the building, and I think is somebody that has a good sense for the pressure packages, what the checks look like, all of these unique things they've put in this scheme under Brian Flores. I think both Durante Jones and Mike Saravo have spent enough time there that a lot of it probably comes to them by osmosis. I think the question is always, how much is Brian Flores' particular mad scientist approach to this, the secret sauce, how much of that can you replicate? And that's kind of what Kwesi, I think, was getting at in that answer is you may have other guys that can get to some of this. The question, I think, and it's impossible to know it until you get into a season, is how much does Flores himself become the separator? Is that replaceable or at least close enough you could approximate it, or will you see a noticeable difference if it's not him doing it? Because I think you've seen that. I mean, you saw that with the Lions for sure this year, where it's okay, we have people that have been in the scheme, that have worked under Ben Johnson, but when it wasn't Ben Johnson actually doing it, I think we saw a major change for them. So if it's that kind of an effect, if he's not here, then that I think you have to be pretty concerned about. But trying to figure out exactly how much of it is him and how much of it can be transferred to somebody else is a lot of the equation here, I think.
Well, the way you just explained that, it triggered me to think the in-game stuff. He's a savant.
Yeah.
I've never come across anything like it in the brief times people explain just 3% of the nuance that goes into it.
Right.
His discernment is savant-like, with him getting ahead of you, knowing, well, you're going to come get me on this, and then now I got this in my back pocket. Right. It's the in-game stuff that I would think long and hard about.
Yeah, I mean, and that is something that you probably don't have a lot of people that just have that. I mean, you're not going to have people that just walk out and can approximate that the same way, because I think some of that is probably feels, so it's sort of this innate thing. And some of it is experience, because this is a guy that obviously worked under Bill Belichick for a long time. And Bill Belichick was uniquely gifted at making those adjustments in game as well and seeing, okay, they're trying to do this. Let's throw this at them, because they're not going to be able to counter it based on what we've seen them doing. So that ability to pick up information and say, we are going to adjust accordingly, and we're going to throw this other thing that they're not going to be ready for based on what they've done. I think Sean McVay would be the first person to speak to this against Brian Flores, because, he coached the Super Bowl where they were held to 3 points, and Brian Flores was the one kind of directing a lot of that show. That ended up being his last game in New England before he went to Miami. But yes, that is, I think, a lot of the concern if you were to leave is how much of that can you replace? Because, like you say, you hear players say this too, that his ability in game to figure things out and kind of get to an answer in relatively short order is pretty unique. And if you're trying to assume that you can replace that one for one, I think that may be a difficult, ledge to climb out on.
What with Tomlin stepping away?
Yeah.
How does that amplify, if in any way, this current situation, given he was there?
Yeah.
And O'Connell said yesterday the team has made several runs at re-signing Flores, did so before the season, right after the season. Still, Brian has wanderlust. Would you make the favored scenario Flores returning here? And what do you think of the whole Pittsburgh situation?
I think it would be the favored scenario, but it was interesting that O'Connell said that yesterday, because I have heard that since, probably last February, March-ish, combine, shortly after the combine, that this was going on, that they wanted to get it done, and that he might, kind of look around and see the market, as O'Connell alluded to yesterday. So the fact that it has taken this long, I think, has been intentional. I think it's been something he's thought about pretty deliberately for the better part of a year. And the fact that it's not done, it does make you wonder. I think the favorite scenario is probably still that he's here, because I think they're going to have a strong offer, and he may look at it and say, the amount of latitude I have in personnel, in crafting the scheme how I want, all of those things, I think, play in their favor. The question I would have is, how much does he want to be in a place where there's maybe a little more solidified on the other side of the ball, particularly at the quarterback position? Will that play into his thinking at all? Which, as it comes to Pittsburgh, I think that would be a big question, because yes, he could go there. Obviously has the relationship with Tomlin. Obviously the Rooneys know him. I think he thought very highly of his time in Pittsburgh, but if you become the head coach, you now have to have the answer at the quarterback spot, which either means you're trying to figure out, do you want to bring Aaron Rodgers back? Does Aaron Rodgers want to be back? And if not, you're picking in, somewhere in the back half of the first round, trying to figure out the quarterback position, which is not an easy place to do it, especially in a year where the quarterback class is probably not that good. So I I see where the job would be an interesting fit because of those connections, but I think the particulars of that job may lead them to look in a different direction. Now, it's typically been a defensive head coach there, obviously, dating back a long time that the Steelers have gone with those types of people. And, they hire a coach once every 15 years. So when I say those types of people, it's like 3 or 4 people. But I do think the quarterback and needing somebody that knows how to navigate that well is going to play into that job. So that's where I wonder what the fit would be like for him there.
If you don't want Brian Flores to leave the Minnesota Vikings, I would be concerned about this Ravens spot. And here's why. Because they're built and predicated to run the ball and play defense. What fell off last year? Not the running of the ball, the defense. Okay, so now they look at, wow, look what you did with Fabian Moreau. Wow, look what you did when Van Ginkel went down. Wow, look what you did when Grenard went down. I give Flores to the Ravens a better chance than, some people that I at least follow online. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that team has a lot of the DNA that would fit him.
Big time.
I mean, you have obviously a team that's been successful for a long time. You have Derrick Henry for however much longer, we'll see, but you have Lamar Jackson. You have, I think Zay Flowers is really good. I mean, I think from what we've seen from him, both against the Vikings and just watching him this year, I think he is a dynamic receiver that can do a lot after the catch. We've all seen it happen in a lot of these games. I'm not breaking any news here, but yes, having a defense that gets a little bit more of the vigor that Brian Flores brings to it, I think would fit. And it's also been a team that has, I think, front office wise, organizationally,
stability.
It's had stability, and it's also been a team that wants to have aggressive defensive play callers, whether it's Wink Martindale, even Mike McDonald coming through there. Wow. I think a lot of that has been, let's have a more blitz heavy scheme and have some things that are a little more unique. I don't think, I mean, when you change coaches, obviously all of this is different, but front office, ownership, however many people would weigh into, well, I don't know if we want to go about things that way. I don't think you're going to run into a lot of headwinds in that particular job because they have been a team whose approach on defense has a lot to do with heavy pressure, and nobody's going to be like, are you sure we can make this happen? I think it'd be more of a, yeah, we've done this, we've seen it work, let's go.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, courtesy of Standard Heating and Air. Thank you very much, Standard Heating and Air. StandardHeating.com online to learn more. And when we return, we'll discuss some things elsewhere around the National Football League and continue our Vikings conversation with Ben Goessling, the scribe. He covers the team for the Star Tribune at StarTribune.com. But first,
The Fan wants to give you a chance to put some bonus bucks in your pocket with the National Cash Contest. All you got to do and be eligible to win is you just go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword gold. The keyword is gold, and you might win some bonus bucks if you enter the keyword gold at KFAN.com now.
Isn't that something?
And winter is coming.
Thank you, Minneapolis.
if you ran Green Bay and off what you know, being the scribe, but being a scribe on the outside here with the Green Bay Packers, would you extend LaFleur?
Boy, I mean, I watched that game and I watched the way that they lost it, and I thought, I don't know how you bring him back, because I think he's 3-6 in the playoffs now and 1-3 with Jordan Love. Now, I suppose what you would say to that is, if he's 3-6 in the playoffs, it means he's been in the playoffs 6 times in, I think, 7 years there. I think it was just the 1 year that they didn't make it in 22 where they had a chance to go. So you could say, hey, he's been here long enough and they've been consistent enough with him that you bring him back. You don't try to, and that's always the danger is, I remember that when that happened at the University of Minnesota with Glenn Mason, hey, we can move up. We've been kind of hitting a ceiling here, and then they fire him and then they bring in Tim Brewster, and that decidedly did not go up. So there is always that risk. But I think in their case, it's like when John Harbaugh is out there, when Kevin Stefanski's out there, I would be very interested to see how it goes, because it's not just bringing him back. It's you have to do an extension. And I know they've said that or at least it's leaked out, I think. I don't know if anybody said it on the record. It's certainly leaked out that they expect he'll be back. I mean, Micah Parsons was in favor of it, and I could see they're not typically the ones to just make the snap decision, with the exception of like Ron Wolf doing that with Ray Rhodes 25 years ago or something. But
right.
They tend to be kind of steady as she goes types. But a new president, I don't know. I mean, I think will he want to do something different? Will he want to commit to Matt LaFleur after seeing the way that game went against that team? I think that plays into a lot of it. You can overreact to one game too, but I do wonder about it, because it's not just bringing him back for 26. It's you have to make a long commitment, and coaches' contracts at this point, you're probably talking about an 8-figure salary. So it's a big check for a team to write. And, the good, bad, and different of the Packers with the ownership structure, when they have to write big checks, it comes out of the team profits. It's not coming out of an owner's deep pocketbook. So, the good of what they have is when the profits get made, they go right back to the operations of the team. The bad is if they have to write a big check for something, it's a different funding mechanism that way. So, I wonder about it a little bit, because you'd have to make that type of commitment financially to him.
My number one question, not being part of that situation, not knowing, remember a couple of years ago, Sam and the Vikings jumped the Packers at Lambeau 28-0.
Yep.
LaFleur throws the worst tantrum I've ever seen a head coach throw during a game.
Yep.
And Bill Vinovich, I don't, hey, we're giving you a chance. No, now I got to throw it, man. You're 10 yards out on the field.
Yeah.
So he may have some tantrum throwing to him, but he wouldn't be the first.
No.
So, I mean, it's that would need to be discussed. But the A topic for me would be, Matt, how come when we lose these playoff games, the final play or plays leading up to it are always discombobulated. Always, it just looks unorganized at the end. I'd be concerned about that.
Timeouts, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's
That's
enough
a big
of
question,
that.
man.
Yeah, there's enough of that with him where it's the composure in those spots. And, body language, it's hard to read into all of it and hard to say that it's indicative of anything. And sometimes people just get frustrated and wear their emotions on their sleeves. But you do see that with him, whether it's that one. And I just feel like there's times where he's kind of, there's a little bit of woe is me. I can't believe this is happening to me kind of stuff. And I bring it up because I do think players notice that stuff and internalize it to a degree where it can set the tone. It can set the emotional tenor of what happens on a sideline when you go about it that way. So, yeah, I wonder about that, and I just wonder about, like, Jordan Love's development. I mean, he's been to the playoffs all of these times, and there's moments where it's like, hey, he's really starting to figure it out. I thought at the beginning of this season, when we saw him, he was more decisive, he was crisper, I thought he was throwing the ball better.
Right.
It's like, hey, he's making the jump, but at this juncture of it, I mean, because everybody always talks there about, the Packers quarterbacks will win the Super Bowl at age 27. I think that was this year for him. He has not taken the big leap like Favre did or like Rodgers did. And some of it, maybe he's not that guy quite to that degree. I mean, those are two of the 10, 15 greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's hard to just say that you expect somebody to be the same, but how much of it is the way you've developed him too? I wonder that, because it does feel like they've hit a little bit of a ceiling with him, and how much of that goes back to the coaching and the way you're developing him, and that ultimately would be on Matt LaFleur too.
Emily, Andrew, and Ben did an Access Vikings podcast yesterday at Ben Goessling via Twitter, if you would like to find it or learn more. Likewise for Emily or Andrew's Twitter feeds. There it was discussed the quarterback competition. There will be a quarterback competition brought in to battle or involve J.J. McCarthy. So the quarterback room, the perception of what's going to take place this offseason, what'd you think of all that?
I thought it was interesting how direct they were about having competition. And I asked Kwesi in his press conference about, how much do you have to communicate that a certain way to free agents? Because I certainly think that played very heavily into the Daniel Jones decision last year. The money was there for him to come back. It was the question of, where am I going to be able to get on the field? Because it's not just a one-year deal for him. He's a 27-year-old quarterback thinking about, what can I do to springboard the rest of my career to get a long-term deal somewhere else? So he looked at it and said, I have a better chance to beat out Anthony Richardson than I do J.J. McCarthy. I think he was right about that. The question I have is, are they going to talk about this differently to free agents or people that they might try to trade for or whatever in 2026, given what they've seen from J.J. McCarthy? And he said, we have a lot of conversations with free agents about that, and I think kind of alluded to the fact that you may have to, make this situation seem favorable to a player. And he talked about, we have a lot of things going for us independent of how much you could play, but he seemed very aware of that you're going to have players think that I have a good chance to win this job. And I think Florio got into this a little bit, right before I jumped on, and I agree with it, that you're going to have to market this in a way that tells players, I have a good chance to go in there and be the starting quarterback. I'm not just being brought in as a clipboard holder. I think that's going to be a lot of it. I think the fact that they were as united on this and as open as they were about, we want competition, I don't think that was an accident.
Right.
When I heard that audio clip about how they handled that situation, you look back, you learn from it, and just kind of thinking about Kwesi's answer. I know a lot of us look backwards, though, and we think about how different the season could have been. Darnold is a more often used example or talker, but specifically with Daniel Jones, because you hit on it, most likely we start the season with J.J. McCarthy.
Right.
And so then Daniel Jones steps in. We're working in a vacuum here and hypotheticals and all that, but he would only step in after that ankle injury against the Falcons.
Right.
And then the idea that when JJ was healthy, they would probably go back to JJ McCarthy. And so the idea of this being a materially different season, maybe they lament how they handled Daniel Jones. I don't know. Do you think that makes a big difference in terms of how we watch 2025 play out, how they handled JJ?
Well, yeah. I think if Daniel Jones is here and say he comes in when McCarthy gets hurt and plays well to the point where, like Carson Wentz was, I think, serviceable, and I think, kept them in a lot of games. But if Daniel Jones is doing what he did early in the year in Indianapolis, in Minnesota, do they keep riding with Daniel Jones? I think there's a chance they do. So, all of that does, kind of play into your mind of how would the season have gone if the alternative to McCarthy was one that they felt a little bit better about. And I think a lot of the focus of this season they had decided was developing JJ, and you have to, play that out. But at the same time, if you had a quarterback that was playing at the level that we saw Daniel Jones do it in Indianapolis, that decision gets a little harder. So, yeah, I do wonder about that. And I think at least into 26, I think they know that if you're going to bring somebody in here that is of a high enough caliber to take you back to the playoffs, you're probably going to have to do it by saying, yeah, you have a good chance to come in and win the job out of camp. I don't think they're going to guarantee it to somebody necessarily, but and money goes into all of this too, and that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But yes, I think the promises they make, or at least the opportunities as the way they frame it, I think it's going to have a lot to do with where this goes.
And if again, with the right to change this opinion as the offseason moves forward and the steam begins to emerge and percolate, do you believe that would be more so via trade or with Carson Wentz, who you have?
Yeah.
I don't know what Nick Mullins' deal was with Jacksonville, if it was one or two, somebody like that. Or the list, the unrestricted free agents that you see, because it's
not a great list.
But I'm with you on the maturity, the advancement of leaving things more open than they did last year. Daniel Jones, you had here, what his skill set is. Like Darnold, like I said with Darnold into his first season, if you think throwing to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson is like Robbie Anderson, Ian Thomas, and Tommy Tremble, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, it's not.
So he's going to have a better chance here. Yeah. Well, that was a Daniel Jones situation too. Well, what's next unless it's Wentz is not. You know what I mean? It would to leave it open the way they did had me thinking, are they interested in trading for somebody?
Yeah, like somebody that's been here before. Is that what you're getting at?
Don't know.
Yeah,
I just know the list of unrestricted free agents.
Yeah.
And with respect, and I like Marcus Mariota a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I put a lot of work into him after the season and what he did outside of the Vikings game. Well, he had a fantastic year.
Yeah, he had some moments for sure.
Yeah, Mariota was he was in control of a situation that was out of control.
Yeah.
And when you're, when there's chaos and you're the controlled part of the controlled chaos, you gain my respect for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So okay, that's one name. But, I mean, is that somebody or anybody that you think of who could be available, including Carson Wentz, of whom I'm fond, and I know you are too, that you can look at and say, that's it. This is a full-blown competition here between this guy who's done this and the guy that we have here, McCarthy, who we drafted.
Yeah, I mean, it probably depends on how aggressive you want to get, what you want to pay for. I mean, Malik Willis is going to be a name on the market, and I think he'll make some money. You've got, Daniel Jones needs a deal somewhere. Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, the first time, third time Malik Willis takes off on a 3rd and 9.
Yep.
And there's an open receiver in the middle of the field that they all look back at. He's going to lose his mind.
Yes.
And that was
That's
one of
Josh
the
Dobbs stuff.
And that was one of the things with Aaron Rodgers, the conversation up to training camp last year that I was like, okay, I know all this. He still throws the best back shoulder fade in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
I get all of that. But it's going to take about 5 minutes for Rodgers to change 5 of O'Connell's plays, and they don't work, and this whole thing might blow up.
Yeah, there's some of that.
It just, it goes both ways here.
Yeah. I mean, Garoppolo is a guy that's been in a similar system. Obviously, he's played for McVay in Los Angeles.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, and the name that we are dancing around and haven't mentioned is Kirk Cousins.
Or Joe Burrow.
Come back here. Yeah, well, Joe Burrow, yes.
If you
that's
don't...
the same scheme.
Off what Joe Burrow said a month and a half ago, if you are interested in opening this thing up, if you don't, you have to call them, and just see, or Burrow's representation, just see how serious this thing is.
Just kick the tires.
And I ain't saying that I'm necessarily the biggest fan of it because of the competition, but I'm also saying that I'm not saying I don't like it.
Yeah,
but there's just the way that whole thing was framed up yesterday. I was just like, they're talking around something here. I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, I think they're going to look at everything. And I think that could be, a guy like Mariota, that the attractive thing there is it's a guy that has shown by being drafted where he was that he has a lot of talent to play the position. Obviously was attractive to teams to go as high as he did in the draft, which... that's Sam Darnold kind of stuff. And it's a different skill set than Darnold. Darnold and Mariota have different skill sets, but it's a guy that has shown high-level talent that Kevin O'Connell may say, if I get him in here and kind of can, do the rebranding thing with him, maybe there's some opportunities there. But I think they'll look at anything. Yeah,
the Cousins name, I'm not, saying it's the lowest of low-hanging fruit, but he did finish the season pretty well.
Did.
Knows the thing inside now.
He does.
All right, lastly.
There's a certain ceiling there, too.
Great. Example 1,000 of why qualifying a player with accolades by stating Pro Bowl berths and not all pro status is just foolish. Will Reichert failed to make the Pro Bowl, but is the NFL's first team all-pro kicker.
Yeah.
He's the best kicker in the National Football League. At me if you want. He is.
Yeah, I would agree. He had a tremendous year. The kicks that he made in tough places to kick, Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, from 59, 58 yards out, that was, because there aren't that many places in the NFL anymore that force you to kick in bad conditions. And they didn't play in either of those buildings late enough in the year where it was, he's having to make those length of field goals in late December. But he did have to play on 2 surfaces that have been tricky places to make kicks, as Brandon McManus just showed again last weekend. So it was the fact that he was as accurate as he was, despite the, having to kick in so many long field goal type situations, at the one in, London with the camera wire, that, whatever. I'm not quite sure what happened there. It looked like it hit it, and the NFL claims that it didn't. But, setting that aside, for him to be as accurate as he was, making as many big kicks as he did. Yeah, it was an unbelievable season for him. And yeah, it doesn't make the Pro Bowl. Some of that is obviously fan voting goes into it. Players vote, and how much are players paying attention to kickers around the league? I don't know, but yeah, for him to get that honor as a panel of 50, largely the journalists, and I think there's some former players on that panel that vote on it. That's a bigger deal than Pro Bowl, and it kind of shows the difference in the level of investment, the level of research that goes into picking those respective teams.
You're the best, my brother. Enjoy some time off. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yeah.
And a late happy birthday from 9 to noon.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, man. See you
All
later.
Right, thanks.
Ben Goessling, Standard Heating and Air, standardheating.com. Thank you very much. News du Nord is next.
Wednesday here on KFAN, and we're taking your talkbacks for tickets all day long. You can use the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. We've discussed this. You just hit that microphone, give us up to your best 30 seconds. And for this, describe this Wild season so far. It's using 3 words. Winners will be selected all day for the Wild versus Jets tickets tomorrow at Grand Casino Arena. You can get the details at KFAN.com, keyword contests. Speaking of the Minnesota Wild, it's News du Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com, and poker, blackjack, table games. They got live racing, CanterburyPark.com for all the info. So while you're doing your talk back for potential tickets to tomorrow night's game, tomorrow, 9 to noon, we're doing our first Vox in the Box show. We're going to be a trio. We're going to watch the morning skate. You're going to have Russo. You're going to have Mr. Gorg, KG in the mix. And you might have General Manager Bill Guerin. Tough one a couple days ago against the Hughes bros. It was a Hughes family affair. You lose to the Devils on Monday. You get a chance with the Winnipeg Jets in town tomorrow. And Vox in the Box, 9 to noon. Fallness Festival, 6:45. Wild and Jets with Mr. O'Donnell and Reed on the call. Puck drops shortly after 7 p.m. To the Minnesota Timberwolves, handling business last night against the Milwaukee Bucks.
Randall on the attack, setting up McDaniels again. He is feeling it here in the opening quarter. That's 14 here in the first on perfect 5 of 5 shooting, 4 of 4 from distance.
We talked about who needs to step up. Jaden's taking it to heart.
Yeah, no Anthony Edwards last night. Jaden McDaniels stepping up. How about Mr. Randall?
Bones on the attack. Looks like he got bumped. Baron Jay with the offensive rebound. Setting up Randall. 3-ball splashes home. Third 3 of the half for Julius Randall. And the Timberwolves up 22 on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, big theme of last night. Those triples indeed.
Dante against his former team drains the triple. Wolves have their largest lead of the game right here, up 34.
23s for Minnesota, 20 and 37.
Coming up on a season high in that category.
Yeah, 20 of 37 eventually was 22 of 42. 52% from deep last night. You dig that as Julius Randle, he led the way with 29 points. It was Bones off the bench with 5 triples of his own as the Wolves just dominate the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee, 139-106. Podcastable shortly after the show concludes. Head coach Chris Finch joining the show to kick off things thanks to Second Harvest, Heartland, and Prize Picks. But for the Timberwolves, they get to chill. And it sounds like, by all accounts, right foot injury maintenance on a Tuesday for Anthony Edwards means that he will be available as soon as, 2 days from now. You got Houston and the Spurs in a Friday, Saturday back-to-back. And you heard Alan Horton's voice along Jim Pete on the analysis. You're going to get to hear both those games right here on The Fan.
And Finchie sounded low-key excited to play Houston, where he's like, first time we've gotten Houston this year.
Yeah.
And I could have played the Durant card. Instead, I wanted to talk about Şengün, their center, because I know Chris is a massive fan of his.
And he's coming of age this season.
No doubt. He's fantastic. But this Wolves-Houston game and then San Antonio after that's a sneaky little class test on the road at this stage of the equation at about the midway point. San Antonio, I think was trying to sweep Oklahoma City last night. I know they had beaten them twice earlier this year. Tightly contested game, middle of the third quarter. Then the OKC has been going through some hiccups of late for whatever the reason. Don't know why. But they took a timeout last night, middle, late third quarter. Somebody made a decision. This crap is done. Okay, we are done playing like this. They ran away from the San Antonio Spurs. Full compliment, Sans Vassell, who's been out for a while. But, I mean, Wemby played last night. They ran away from the Spurs like they were tied to a post. I mean, they killed them from the third quarter through the fourth quarter. So something clicked with OKC last night. San Antonio is still a formidable force. Then you get Utah at the end of that. Utah's ever beatable, but they got some scorers on their squad. So these next three are pretty cool.
Yeah, next three are pretty cool indeed, including Houston. Houston, certainly different circumstances, of course. But you think about when you speak of the Minnesota Timberwolves and just point guard navigation over the course of this year, trying to use Amen Thompson as a ball handler, what they've tried to do. I think Van Vliet's out for the season.
Yeah, he is.
And so trying to navigate who's leading the offense and maybe problems that can exist or arise.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get to focus in and dial in on what the Rockets look like on Friday night as well.
It's analogous to here because you can run point forward with Kevin Durant. And they do. Now, he's not as good at it at this stage of his career as Julius Randle because he doesn't handle the ball in tight quarters the way Randle does. But the center, Şengün, well, he handles the ball incredibly well for somebody that size. So they're interesting. I just maybe I need to change my face with the Rockets because I heard a lot of stuff about them into the season. I just need to see it consistently from them. I know they can be. They're fast. They remind me of the Houston Texans. They're fast. They're flashy. They got a lot of big dunkers and things like that. But when the rubber meets the road, we'll see. We'll see from a class test standpoint in the postseason truly how good they are.
You heard this on the airwaves last night. Sadly, it went the wrong way for your Gophers.
3 to tie it. Yeah!
Okay, Tyson.
With 4.6
Wow.
deadlock. Here comes Blackwell with 2, with 1, a 3 to win it is good. A 25-footer for Blackwell to win it. And they're running all over the opponent's floor, and we've seen this movie before.
Yeah, what an amazing finish to a sporting event last night. First and foremost, Nolan Winter, all right, who I've known since he was a little kid. His father, Trevor, played for the Gophers, played for the Wolves for a minute. His mom, Heidi, was elite volleyball talent for the University of Minnesota. So I've known the Winters for a long time. I haven't talked to Nolan in quite some time. But there he is. Nolan Winter up 3 at the foul line at Williams Arena. All he needs to do is hit one and Scotty's going to win. And he clanks both. Here come the Gophers. Cade Tyson straight away from 28. Bam!
Yeah, it's only 3 of the night, too.
And now the Badgers, they're in a hurry. 4 and change to go. Excellent inbound to the guy, Blackwell, who was open. He went streaking down the court. I don't know who played defense on him. You can't do any better when it comes to defense right at the buzzer and making sure you don't foul. My man did a great job. This kid hit it and goes sprinting around the court, circumnavigating Williams Arena, popping his jersey to everything maroon and gold that he could find. I ain't kidding you, man. And the Gophers were winning early. It was a really, really good game. The Badgers got some skill, man, and a lot of them are Minnesotans. They pulled away by like 9 points. That sucker looked like it was over with about 7 minutes to go. But then Medved's team comes charging at him again. And forced they needed Nolan to miss those 2 free throws, but hey, that's how the world works. They got it. Then Tyson hits it. They're gonna go to overtime. It was just a spectacular finish last night. Nice call by Mike Grimm.
Yeah, good call by Grimm. Tough loss for the Gophers. Entertaining game as it was. And next up, they're at Illinois. 13th ranked Illinois on
13.
Saturday. Yes.
Damn.
Well, Big Ten's good conference.
Yeah.
Michigan, I think, tops in the it's Michigan and Purdue 4-5. Then you have Nebraska at 8.
Freddie Hoiberg.
Izzo at 12. Illinois at 13. Yeah, as strong as always. And Wisconsin potentially trying trying to climb the charts as well. We shall see. Last bit I have for you, News to Nord style, and you mentioned it earlier, talking about it with Florio, as well as the Brian Flores fodder that exists. Mike Tomlin announcing that he's no longer going to coach the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that kind of rocks the NFL coaching world already with so many vacancies. Now Mike Tomlin stepping away, creating an opportunity in Pittsburgh. 19 years, a Super Bowl. Not bad for a guy that walked in thinking he was just going to be a Rooney Rule candidate and finds his way into a job, takes that job, and ran quite well with it.
Yeah, I won a Super Bowl, and he did so at, which one did they? Bill Cowher won at Ford Field when Antoine Randall threw a pass to Hines Ward. Tomlin won that Super Bowl where the game-winning pass to Santonio Holmes
over the Cards, maybe?
Back right of the end zone went over former Viking cornerback Ralph Brown. In a game, James Harrison went huffing and puffing like 95 yards to the end zone right in front of halftime.
Yeah, it was the second season as coach. It was the 08 season. 2 years later, they would go and lose to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Didn't find their way back, sadly, after that, but never a losing record during his 19 seasons in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you last 19 years in a job where those lines are long and the gigs are hard to find, and you leave with a ring. That's a job well done. It also qualifies you as one of the more accomplished coaches in the history of the National Football League. So congratulations to Mike Tomlin. He'll sit out the year, scoop that $13 million the Rooneys are going to have to pay him, get into the TV world a little bit, and then he absolutely, in my estimation, will come back with some team in 2027. That's News du Nord, courtesy of Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Olivia King, part of a youth hockey hub. She'll be back in studio 9 to noon to discuss the world of puck. When we continue, walking up to Bryant McKinney about a half hour from now, former Vikings offensive lineman and former Miami Hurricane. He's going to join 9 to noon to discuss the national championship game, Martin Luther King Day, between his Canes and Miles Price's IU Hoosiers. It's 9 to noon. Don't leave.